So I'm very pleased to introduce my good friend, and today he has a staff person, Dave, with him. This is Daniel Pogaszewski. Dan Pogo is what we call him. He is a commissioner for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. So the people that take care of your water, Dan is one of those commissioners. We are very proud of our Chicago and Cook County. We have one of the best water rec infrastructures in the country. So Chicago does have some of the best water as far as what you wash up in, what you clean with, what you drink with. By far, it's one of the largest water reclamation districts and plants, multiple plants as well. Dan will tell you more about it. And hopefully some point this summer between SYL and MVP, we'll get an opportunity through Dan's office to tour one of those plants, and you'll get to see what that process looks like, how your water, the process of how your water is cleaned and redistributed to you, right? Because it's not as simple as you think. So Dan and I worked for a couple of years together at the Illinois State Treasurer's office, so that's where we met and became really good friends. So again, I'm really proud of my friend. He got elected to office this year. So put together, hands together for Commissioner Dan. Commissioner Pogo.
So, you guys are like, man, LaVonté, what'd you do? We got this pudgy Polish guy here. Oh my God, is he gonna bore us for the next half hour? LaVonté is the salt of the earth. LaVonté is, to me, not just someone that I look up to incredibly, but also a dear friend. One of the things that really served me in life, and I try to teach other folks, is that you never know if the person that you're talking to, right, where they'll be. And so LaVonté is someone who treats everyone, right, with respect, with love, with dignity, and it's something that I try to tell everyone that I meet. You never know where someone's going to end up, because the person below you might end up as the person above you, right? And before I go into my thing, it's one of the things that I think would be useful for everyone, is so that when you think about it, just try to treat everyone with love, respect, and kindness. So LaVonté said, Dan, you are commissioner for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. It's like, what the heck is that? You know, when you flush your toilet? We are the government agency that makes sure that water that you flush down the toilet or that goes down the sewer when it rains, that before we release it into our local waterways, that it's safe. You might want to ask, why the heck is that important? Well, maybe I'll start with this. So, same size as a credit card, right? This is like a venture card. Here's something crazy. Every single one of us eats, and then we excrete a credit card's worth of microplastics. Think about this. You eat this much plastic. Me, you, everyone you know, everyone you've seen, everyone you've interacted with. And you're like, how the heck is that possible, right? Well, this is the thing. Folks like to say diamonds are forever. Plastics are forever, right? And so when you see someone, right, they're tossing a plastic wrapper, a bottle, that ends up on the side of the road. Guess what? That breaks down, but it breaks down to the smallest little pieces that you can barely even see. You can't see it. That's why you end up eating it. You're like, how does that happen? Well, for example, everyone likes like shiny, flashy little things, right? So, as an example, so do fish. In fact, many of these small little fish, they'll go after little bugs, little insects. They're trying to eat the same way you guys are, right? Well, they'll do the same thing with microplastics. And then guess what? We'll eat fish, we'll eat other animals that have all of these plastics. This is crazy. So, you guys know how many, we have 7 continents, right? One of them, Antarctica, doesn't have people on there permanently at all. At all. They have people that are there part of the year when it gets a little warmer, and they're there just to try to study this place. But they do not have people there permanently. So, last summer, they're like, hey, let's see how pervasive microplastics are in our environment. It's Antarctica. They went to 15 different places. Every single one of them, they found microplastics. Every single place where they're like, hey, let's just test a little bit of the snow. What's crazy is that it wasn't until the 1940s that we started using single-use plastics. It hasn't even been 100 years. It is crazy. And the thing is that if we will talk about water is life, right? If you don't have water, whether it's in a natural form or through some other kind of drink, you will die, right? And you need to make sure that water is clean. It was one of the huge struggles that we've had for a long time, is making sure that we have access to clean water. Now, the thing is that we are poisoning ourselves. How are we going to deal with this? Now, we're not going to be able to engineer our way out of it. And so, that's one of the reasons why myself, right, this pudgy Polish guy, is here, because this is a big problem. And we got to do something about it. We're not going to be able to just engineer our way out of it. So, what's crazy, this government body that I represent, and along with eight other commissioners, there's 9 of us total. It was founded in the 1880s, and what you used to have is, before we built a sewer system, before we had a system where we cleaned that water, we used to just put it into rivers. What's crazy is that in the 1960s, right, same time you got Jimi Hendrix, all this stuff, our rivers all over the United States were so polluted, you could literally sometimes walk across them, and in some places, like the Cuyahoga River, literally went on fire. That's crazy. So, unfortunately, we have this long history of pollution and not caring about it. Now, it got to the point in the 1880s that here in Chicago, we reversed the flow of the Chicago River. You guys ever been downtown? Who's been downtown? Right? So here's a question. Which way does the river flow? You guys have any idea? Does it go into the lake? Does it go out of the lake?
I ain't never even paying attention, honestly.
Right? It's weird because when you look at it and you try to notice which direction,
Going back and forth.
that's exactly it, right? And you actually have that because originally it used to flow into the lake. But here's the thing. I've talked about how polluted the river was. If that river water goes in the lake, what happens? You're gonna be, that's right. You're drinking polluted water. And so for a long time, when the city of Chicago was like trying to get water, they would try to put it further and further out. But the problem is it was still horribly polluted. And so, what's now the MWRD, we're the ones that reversed the flow of the Chicago River.
Elaborate.
So what happened is that instead of flowing into the river flowing into Lake Michigan, it's the opposite now.
Right.
It now goes out. And what's crazy, you guys ever heard of the Panama Canal?
Yeah.
So the Panama Canal, it's in Panama, and it's a shortcut where you can literally go from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. The French tried to build the first one, but they couldn't do it. So when the Americans are like, hey, we want to do this now, they brought in the folks that reversed the Chicago River. It was the folks from, many of them, from this same government body, which is now the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Chicago.
Wow.
Built out the biggest piece of infrastructure that we have in our metropolitan area, the deep tunnel. Over 100 miles of tunnels, over 100 miles in Cook County. Some of them so big, you could drive a semi-truck through them. Think about it, that's crazy. And these tunnels end up going to these huge reservoirs, old quarries that are able to hold water. We started building it in 1975. It's not finished yet. A lot of it is. When it's finished in 2029, it'll be able to hold 20 billion, with a B, gallons. What's the purpose of this? So, in Chicago, we have where the water you flush down your toilet and the water that goes into your sewer that from rainfall all goes the same. What happens when there's too much rain? That's exactly it. It overflows. Now, what's the problem when it not only overflows into the streets, but it overflows in people's basements? That's exactly it, right? Disease, contamination. But there's other things. How many of us are living paycheck to paycheck? When you're trying to deal with a situation where, oh man, I lost my appliances. I have to pull out my carpet, right, in my apartment. These are horrible setbacks. And to try to stop this, because I don't know if you guys know, this place where we built this city, the thing that we can be proud, all of us, as Chicagoans, we built this city on a swamp. And the innovations that it took to build this city changed the rest of the world. I don't just mean the Panama Canal. Let's say, how many of you guys ever seen like Japanese animation? Right? You know what's crazy is that most of Japan, you can't live on it. It's mountains. So 90% of Japan can't live on it. So what they've done, you guys ever been by the lakefront? You see the little teeth that go into Lake Michigan? Right? That's a technology that we came up with in Chicago, where we took interlocking pieces of steel, drove it into the lake bed, like a vacuum cleaner, suck out the water, and then put in fill, instant land. Michigan Avenue used to be where the city of Chicago ended. You got Grant Park on the other side, right? In fact, some of the pieces from the Great Chicago Fire ended up in that fill. They just took the rubble and put it straight in there. There's plenty of other innovations that literally change the world. Skyscrapers, when you build on a swamp, it's expensive to build on, right? It's not like a regular place. So for most of human history, when people wanted to build, they built out like this, right? Instead, like, man, that's expensive. So when we build buildings, we build up. Skyscrapers came out of Chicago. Don't listen to what those folks from New York say. We're the ones who did it. And it's our ingenuity that has literally changed not just our area, but all over. Those teeth that I mentioned, 10% of land has been added on in Osaka Bay, where Tokyo and Osaka and these major Japanese cities are, because of what they did in Chicago. The Deep Tunnel Project, my first day on the job, had a delegation from Thailand, came in there because they wanted to see the deep tunnel system. The part that connects out in Stickney, Illinois, the folks that are engineers, they like to joke, it's the most expensive basement in all of Cook County. And so, this is something that is really amazing, really great. Trying to stop flooding from being such a horrible issue. There is, unfortunately, a problem. 20 billion gallons it'll hold. If you get 1 inch of rainwater all over Cook County in a 24-hour period, that's 15 billion gallons. So, yeah, 15 billion, right? Seriously. So, 1 inch all over Cook County. Think about it. Cook County is so big, if it were a state by population, it would be 26th. For example, Cook County is the largest judicial district in the whole United States. It's 5.25 million people.
Yeah.
MWRD serves, in terms of population, almost all of Cook County. And so, with realities like climate change, with challenges like forever chemicals, microplastics, this is becoming much more difficult. And with the climate changing, what used to be a once in a century flood now happens in some areas every couple years. And so we have problems. We have to figure this out. And unlike the deep tunnel, we're not going to be able to just engineer our way out of it when you're talking about things like microplastics. And so this means that we need social buy-in. We need to have people have a consciousness change. That's one of the reasons why I'm here, is because of the fact that how many of you guys, before I came in here, ever thought about microplastics? Thank you. I'm very happy. But it's a problem that you don't really know. How many of you guys ever watched movies from the 1940s and you see people like smoking away on cigarettes? It's like, you have no idea. You are microwaving your lungs, right? No idea. And in a very similar way, we all are poisoning ourselves. Here's the thing that's crazy, right? How many folks hear people get down on Chicago like, oh, Chicago, oh no, it's this, it's that, right?
Y'all heard that.
Yeah, right?
Haters.
That's right. That is right. That is 100% right. So, people have said the 20th century, wars over oil, right? You saw a place like Saudi Arabia had oil, no economic development. Because of that oil wealth, created some of the most audacious infrastructure that you have, right? In the 21st century, people talk about water. Guess what? Does anyone have any idea, in our Great Lakes, how much of the world's fresh water we have?
I think it's 5%.
It's, think about 4 times that. 20%. That means if you had like fingers, right, that'd be like, and imagine it's not like the thumb, right? The thumb is kind of like a half finger, right? That's like 1/5. 1/5 of the world's water. And we're on it. That's awesome, right? Now, why is fresh water different than salt water? Like, what's the difference?
Salt water dehydrates you when you drink it. Fresh water doesn't.
Man, I'm just gonna give you, you are all about it. So that's awesome. That's exactly it, right? That salt water, 100%. That salt water, you can't drink it. It will kill you eventually, right? Now, what I start with, we started with microplastics, right? So, for example, you had where Lagunitas moved some of their production here. Because what? It's beer. If you want beer, you need what? Water. That's right. You need good water. You need clean water. Because California's on the Pacific coast. They can have all of the salt water that they want, right? But that's it. They need clean, fresh water, 100%. So it's interesting, right? We live in a time where our part of the country, some people try to call it flyover country, right? It's the East Coast going to the West Coast, right? And we haven't had the same economic development or resources, right? In comparison to where you've seen American wealth concentrate even stronger, right? On the East Coast of the United States and the West Coast of the United States. A trend that goes back to the 1960s and 70s. But we are the fresh coast. We are the fresh coast. Because of the fact that typically when you have seas, you don't have fresh water. It's very unusual. And we have that gift. Think about it. People are moving out to places like Arizona, right? Like, man, the weather's nice. We all know. February in Chicago, it's a dicey proposition, right? It's like, it can get hella cold. But right now you have where, at this moment that we speak of, there are problems with where are they gonna get water? And without water, right, you can buy water at the supermarket. You can't buy enough water to take a shower every day, right? That's incredibly expensive. We have this unusual phenomenon where we have Great Lakes of fresh water. But it's ours if we can keep it. We need to make sure that we keep this water safe. And I know it might seem silly. People are like, well, people are always going to be not nice and just throw their plastic garbage right on the side of the road. But that's not true. We can have a consciousness change. It's one of the reasons why I'm here is to let people know. For example, me and LaVonté, we're a little bit older than you folks, but we still remember, and you might see this in old movies, where when a wedding happened, folks used to throw, LaVonté, you remember what it is? Rice. They used to throw rice at the end of a wedding. It was good luck. People don't do that anymore. It's very rare for you to see that. Any idea why? Has anyone heard of a reason why people don't throw rice at a wedding?
No.
So the reason is because of the fact that it's supposed to be bad for the birds. And so if any birds eat that rice, the rice will expand.
No.
Maybe they do. Thankfully, I have never had to see that. But that's the thing, right? Is that's what folks will say. And so today, we don't do that, right? And that's really nice that we do that for the birds. But it'd be even nicer if we did it for ourselves and stopped poisoning ourselves. And this means letting people know, educating them, right? Having it so that we are aware of what this threat of microplastics is. Because we're not just going to be able to engineer our way out of it. And so, first and foremost, that's the thing that I really want to make sure to leave everyone here with. Because this is our city. This is our treasure. Our Great Lakes. Now granted, it's not just ours. It's Milwaukee's. It's Cleveland's. It's Toledo's. It's Detroit's. even Erie, Pennsylvania, right? But it's ours. We are on the fresh coast. It is our promise. People talk about the promise of the green economy. That's real. But the blue economy, the economy of things that you can do because of the fact that you are along fresh water, has even more potential. But unless we're good stewards of it, it won't do anything. And that's where our responsibility, right, as the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District is. We are there, two responsibilities. Number one, make sure that the output, right, that the water you flush down the toilet, the water that comes in your sewer, that's right, to clean it in the environment. The second is to try to help build out and try to improve our infrastructure, like with the deep tunnel for stormwater management. So that's a little bit. I don't want to bore everyone. I'm here to make sure to answer questions. This guy, by the way, to tell you about leadership and character, and I know I've already said that. That is LaVonté, and someone who is dedicated to making this world a better place. And you have an amazing gift here in having this man here as the leader of this not-for-profit. And so I'll stop with my monologue here, and I'm happy to answer all of your questions that you might have.
Brought to you by Commissioner Daniel Pogorzelski of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Chicago.